What if the key to a calmer mind isn't in your head at all? Imagine spending years trying every trick to manage anxiety, reframing thoughts, breathing exercises, maybe even medication, only to find out the real issue might be happening deep inside your gut. It sounds a little like science fiction, but a wave of new research is forcing us to rethink where anxiety comes from completely. We've all seen the yogurt ads and supplement bottles, but can changing your gut bacteria really calm your mind? The answer is a surprising and complicated yes. And today we're looking at the science to see what works, what doesn't, and how to use this knowledge effectively. To understand how tiny organisms in your gut could possibly affect your thoughts, we need to talk about the gut-brain axis. This isn't just a vague gut feeling. It's a real physical and chemical superhighway, a two-way communication system between your digestive system and your brain. Your gut is lined with an incredible network of neurons, somewhere between 200 and 600 million of them. It's so complex that scientists sometimes call it our second brain. This communication happens in a few ways. One of the main channels is the vagus nerve, which acts like a direct data cable sending signals between the gut and brain. But it's not just about nerves. The trillions of microbes living in your gut are like tiny chemical factories, producing all sorts of compounds, including neurotransmitters like serotonin and dopamine, the very same molecules that regulate our mood. In fact, it's estimated that up to 95% of your body's serotonin is produced in the gut. Now, it's important to be clear, this gut-produced serotonin doesn't cross the blood-brain barrier to directly influence your mood. The two systems are separate. However, it still plays a vital role by influencing local gut functions and communicating with the brain indirectly through pathways like the vagus nerve. When your gut bacteria are in balance, the signals sent to the brain are generally calm and regulated. But when that ecosystem gets thrown off, a state called dysbiosis, the messages can become chaotic, contributing to issues like inflammation and stress. This has given rise to a fascinating field of research focused on what are called psychobiotics. These generally refer to probiotics and prebiotics that, when ingested, may provide a mental health benefit. The theory is simple. If you can introduce the right kinds of bacteria, you might be able to shift the conversation on the gut-brain highway from distress to well-being. Okay, the theory is compelling, but what happens when we put it to the test? The scientific evidence is both promising and a bit messy. Let's start with the good news. Several large-scale reviews, known as meta-analyses, have pooled together results from many different studies. Recent analyses suggest that, on average, probiotics can lead to a small but statistically significant reduction in anxiety symptoms compared to a placebo. However, this is where it gets complicated. The term probiotic is as broad as the term exercise. A light walk and a marathon are both exercise, but they have very different effects. Likewise, different probiotics do vastly different things. Many of these scientific reviews note high heterogeneity, which is a formal way of saying the studies they looked at were all over the place, using different bacterial strains, different doses, and for different lengths of time. In fact, some analyses have found the results for anxiety to be less consistent than those for depression. This highlights a critical point. The effects can depend heavily on the person and their baseline level of anxiety. The effect seems to be real, but it's often modest and highly dependent on getting three things right: the right strain, the right dose, and the right duration. This brings us to the most important practical question: which probiotics actually work? If you walk down the supplement aisle, you'll see bottles simply labeled probiotic blend. This is where most people go wrong. The research is incredibly clear on this. The benefits of probiotics are strain-specific. That little code after the species name, like GG1714 or RO052, is the unique identifier for the exact bacterium used in a study. It's the difference between saying you need a dog and you need a trained German Shepherd. So, which strains have the most research behind them for anxiety and stress? First, we have Lactobacillus rhamnosus, particularly the JB1 strain. What's interesting about JB1 is that animal research suggests it may work by influencing the vagus nerve. Mouse studies have shown it can alter GABA receptors in the brain, the same system targeted by anti-anxiety medications. It's crucial to note that this specific mechanism is based on preclinical research, and human evidence is still emerging. Next is Bifidobacterium longum 1714. Some human trials have found that taking B. longum 1714 can help reduce perceived stress and lower levels of the stress hormone cortisol. In one study, participants even showed subtle improvements on memory tests while under stress. It appears to work by helping to regulate the body's central stress response system. Another well-researched combination is Lactobacillus helveticus R. 0052 paired with Bifidobacterium longum R. 0175. A few notable human trials have looked at this specific duo. Taking them together can lead to improvements in psychological distress, including both anxiety and depression. Finally, some evidence also points to strains of Lactobacillus plantarum. One study found that students taking a beverage with L. plantarum experienced decreased stress. The practical takeaway here is huge. You have to read the label. Don't just look for the highest CFU count. Look for these specific, clinically studied strain names and their corresponding numbers. If you're finding this look into the science of wellness helpful and you want more evidence-based guides, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell. We break down complex topics like this every week so you can make informed decisions about your own health. Let's say you found a product with a studied strain. How do you actually use it? First, dosage. Many studies use 1 billion to 20 billion CFUs per day, with 1 to 10 billion being a common starting point. Second, and arguably most important, is duration. Probiotics aren't like painkillers. They don't work in 30 minutes. Most positive findings were seen after 4 to 8 weeks of consistent daily use. You should commit to at least 2 to 3 months before deciding if it's working for you. This is because the bacteria need time to exert their effects while passing through the gut. It's a common misconception that probiotics colonize or permanently set up camp. Most strains are transient. They have an effect while you're taking them and are typically gone a few weeks after you stop. This leads to the third point, consistency. You must take them daily, not just when you feel anxious. Taking a probiotic with food can also help the bacteria survive the acidic journey through your stomach. Now, we need to have a serious talk about managing expectations. While the science is exciting, it's crucial to be realistic. The overall effect of probiotics on anxiety is generally described as small to modest. This is not a miracle cure, it's a supportive tool that might help move the needle. The benefits may also be more noticeable in people who have higher levels of stress or anxiety to begin with. This leads to the most critical point. Probiotics are not a replacement for established mental health treatments. If you are struggling with significant anxiety, you should speak with a doctor or mental health professional. Therapy and medication remain the primary evidence-based treatments. Probiotics should be viewed as a potential adjunct therapy, something you do alongside, not instead of proven treatments. Finally, there's the issue of quality. The supplement market is notoriously underregulated. This is why choosing a reputable brand that provides third-party testing is so important. So, can probiotics reduce anxiety symptoms? The answer is a cautious but hopeful yes. The connection between your gut and your brain is real, powerful, and constantly active. The key is precision. If you decide to explore this, don't just grab any bottle. Look for products containing specific, clinically studied strains like Lactobacillus rhamnosus, JB1, or Bifidobacterium longum 1714. Be prepared to take it daily at an effective dose, and most importantly, be patient. Give it at least 2 to 3 months to see if it makes a difference for you. Think of it less as a magic pill and more as a long-term strategy for cultivating a healthier internal environment. The path to a calmer mind might just have a stop in your gut, but like any journey, it requires the right map in the form of scientific evidence, the right vehicle in a strain-specific probiotic, and the patience to stay the course.